So if just so everybody's aware that this will be recorded and used later. So again, if there's any issues with that, I'd ask you to go ahead and exit the webinar. But with that, Tomer, let me turn it over to you. I'll make you the presenter and let you take it away from
Yeah,
here.
thank you so much, Dan, and thanks for the audience and the opportunity. I'll take about 7 minutes of product introduction, and just I want to encourage you, if you have any questions, during the session or in between, you can use the chat. And again, we're here for you to provide any answer that you might have. All right, so we'll talk today about the EFI roll-to-roll in general, but specifically on the Pro 32R. I would just like to put in content where we are at. So the EFI roll-to-roll division is responsible for the development, engineering, and of course manufacturing of the super wide roll-to-roll. And the Pro 32R is one of this of the part of this great display graphics portfolio that EFI offers. And when we looked on our roadmap, coming 30 years into this market, doing mainly roll-to-roll, we were, I would say, until 5-6 years ago, we were focusing on the mid-range and high-end, building high industrial, fast, of course, productive, and high-quality machines. And about 4 to 5 years ago, we wanted to help our customers that want to step and a bit further in the game, that want to move into the digital arena with the Pro 32R, a more entry-level mid-range product for prospect that really want to grow. And Joe will talk more about that. But we wanted to fill this void and help to have another step to make this move much more gradual. But on the other hand, keep a lot of the high-end developments, our quality and reliability that I will discuss. So definitely today at EFI, we have, I believe, the widest range of roll-to-roll products from, again, production, entry-level, mid-range, and super high speed, those 7 different printers. I was thinking to share with you, over the time, what really makes us as a market leaders. I believe the first thing is our experience, right? We are focusing over 30 years with the ViewTech brand, and all the great development and innovations we've done, and we always been the first in the market, first with the UV arc, first with the LED, always looking how to improve, look from the eyes of the customers, what we can bring to the market in terms of new options, new tools, new applications. And this is why I would say happily today we're exceeding the 50% market share. The second thing is our reliability, and the fact that we just celebrated our 800th happy customer about 2 months ago from the new generation. We have more than 800, but only the new generation sold over 800 units, and I think it was a great milestone and remind us all that we really have a reliable printers out there in the market. And I think the third pillar is that although we are building these high industrial units, we really are still able to provide a tailor-made solutions, whether it's the printer, right? You have different categories, different speed, different prices. We'll talk about the options, and also, of course, post-sale services, right? Whether you want to have a remote diagnostic tools for your services, and on-site 1-day support, 2-day support, parts only, heads only, calls, all of this, play that you can really choose like a la carte. What will be the service, the options, the product that EFI can offer, and keeping flexibility to each customer. So I think this is the 3 things that still keep us as a market leaders. Okay, so let's look a bit more closer on the 32R. You'll see it live in a few minutes, but just to give you kind of at a glance, we're talking about 126-inch printing width with a 7 picoliter heads, 4 colors as basic, UV LED with all of the benefits, of course, of having a color consistent colors, low electricity, and the ability to use any media, also heat sensitive media. We're offering an additional white ink or clear ink. We'll talk more about that. That really opens up a lot of other opportunities and applications in the market. As I mentioned before, the platform comes, from really a lot of thought and engineering from the high end, and we really kept the robustness, the really, um, motors, cables, everything from the electronics and boards, everything to be really top of the line of the industry, not any compromising on quality. Talking about the options, we'll talk about what options we are offering. It's kind of an a la carte. You can add any one of them anytime. All of them are field upgradable. One example are slitters. It's a wide slitter. You can cut in line with those knives. Double-sided printing for blockout and backlit. Everything is automated with sensors or camera-based. A lot of media handling tools, whether you want to run 2 rolls up, a super duty for jumbo rolls, media edge guards for unique media types, and some software tools that helps you to be more efficient. The Rinker Analyzer, the media saving wizard we will talk about, the EFI IQ that you can know on any specific time what's going on in the printer, how much you print, what is the log file, what is the cost per square feet. Everything is well data and goes up to the cloud. Everything is run by our built-in Fiery. It's a really nice package that operator loves, that everything is in one place, easy to operate, easy to nest files, to rip the files, driven by our Fiery engine. And of course, the inks, our Green Guard Gold certified, also with a 3M MCS certification. So everything comes to the bottom line to be exceptionally low TCO, electricity, labor, ink yield, and more. A very quick one, you're going to see it live, so I don't want to take too much time, but we discussed about a few really, I would say, very unique, only to EFI options. We have the slitters that you can put 1, 2, as many as you like, to cut the margins of any prints on the y-axis. We have clear ink, which is absolutely the only jettable clear ink in the market that is not a varnish, not a glossy effect, but comes to have a protection characteristics against abrasion, chemicals. So imagine that you want to reduce your offline lamination, any post processes, and move to an inline coating with up to 5 years of outdoor warranty. With matte effect, you can do full flat or spot. It's absolutely a game changer in the market, and we see a tremendously growing application, and customers are using the clear coat. Just got a text message about 15 minutes ago about very nice news, which are still I cannot really share, but this is a breakthrough in the industry, and few nice awards are going to be announced around the clear ink next month. So stay tuned. Double side printing, we want to be accurate, we want to be fast, we want to eliminate operators' mistakes, we want to do different files on side A and side B. Our mechanism, our camera sensors enable to print either blockout media or semi-transparent media, depends on the application, with super accurate registration between side A and side B. White ink, maybe years ago it was a nice to have, but today white ink becomes a must in order to be, I would say, still in the game, to do all of those indoors Windows graphics, trackside curtains, day and night application. White really opens up a whole new world of designs and applications. Also available on the 32R with up to 5 layers of printing. Talking about our inks, so number one, and this is something I usually say and urge our prospect to try and go through the process with EFI and acknowledge that we have the best ink coverage in the market, because we know to run the algorithm in a way that it still has enough density, but on the other hand, saving ink per square feet. Our average, again, from hundreds of customers, is an average of over 1,600 square feet per liter. I mentioned the 3M MCS. We also have 2 inks for standard display graphics, or also for more flexible and sleek graphics, the SuperFlex. And I think, I usually being asked, so are there any media limitations? Is there any application that we should know we cannot run on the 32R? And basically my answer is almost none. I've never encountered any application that, or any media type, from the outdoor flags, mesh, definitely if you go to the indoor exhibition, point of purchase, wall covering, magnets, everything that definitely close view, also distant view for backlit or front lit. And of course, the white ink, as mentioned, open up a whole new areas that you can target. So definitely our prints are out there. Anyway, you just turn your head right and left, you see great images. So just to conclude, and again, we really brought this specific Pro 32R to enable entry-level prospect, entry to the digital market, have an industrial platform, a reliable one with a low TCO, and really grow with EFI as a first step. We have a lot of customers starting with 32R. After a year or 2 or 3, again, they see that they have enough capacity, more demand, and moving up to the super high speed. And again, thank you for having me today. I'm still here for any questions during the webinar. And you also have my email if anyone wants to contact me directly. And thank you, Dan. I'm handing over back to you and the team in Londonderry.
Perfect. Thanks, Tomer. And again, it was good good to hear from you. And for those of you guys that haven't met Tomer, he's wealth of knowledge on the products and the product suite and why we have it. And it was a good explanation, right? We've done a lot of things in roll-to-roll for many years, and really this particular product that we're going to walk through, and I'm going to Tiffany, I'm going to change the make you the presenter here. Is just it's culmination of all of that expertise. But really what we've seen from our customers is the success they've had with it in the market, really moving into that, that next level of production and taking that printer to the next stop, part of their business. So it's very exciting, and I'll let you go from there, Tiffany. Let me make you the presenter, and I will.
Can you just lock it or sync it for me?
Yeah, sure, I'm doing that right now. Yeah. Perfect. Let me see. Done all the things I'm supposed to. We should be on the stage, and everybody should be there.
Excellent. Beautiful. Great presentation, Tomer. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for logging on today. It is a series, so we have hosted many of these in the past, and we'll host many more in the future. So thank you for taking some time with us today. So I am in the Londonderry, New Hampshire Center of Excellence, Customer Experience Center. I'm joined by George Howe. He is my lead roll-to-roll operator and will be taking us through the moving parts of the 32R Plus and why we love it so much. But in Tomer's slide deck, he had a really great slide talking about the growth strategy and the growth potential for our roll-to-roll customers. We've been uber successful in the super high speed. Again, that's why he started at the high speed range. But we've been really great at sort of leveraging that technology for the super high speed and bringing it to our entry level and industrial production printing as well. So a lot of the bells and whistles that we have on the super high speed, the super high end products, we have brought down into the 32R Plus platform to make our customers more efficient, more effective with the work that they are going to be bringing in. And one really key note that's a good differentiator for the EFI roll-to-roll platform is that a lot of it is completely modular. You can buy and add as you go the things that you need as your business model changes or as your production grows. So it allows you to be more nimble, more efficient, more effective with the type of work that you're bringing in-house. So today we're going to talk about a lot of the bells and whistles that Tomer mentioned. George is going to start a quick print right now. You can see we're running a 3-meter banner, so it's a full 126-inch banner material. And we're going to go ahead and utilize the slitting function. And you'll be able to see how easy it is to go ahead and add those. Now, one really key benefit to these slitters when you're adding them, the very first sheet coming out of the printer is a keeper. There's absolutely no make ready. Within the software, you're going to say that you're going to be applying the slitters. It's going to print as it just did. A very light line using just black in front of the image start. That's going to show you where you need to apply the slitters. Benefit to that, as I mentioned, is that the very first sheet coming off is going to be a keeper. And because it is LED cure, we can stop. You can see that first pass is already there, so there's no wasted material. Because of the LED cure, there won't be any artifact in that print where that first pass is, and it will just pick up exactly where it left off. You can see very quick and easy to install. You've got the line to align it. You'll go ahead and hit go, and you can start printing right away.
So to add to that, that line is actually put in the software. So when you bring the job in, you want to put slitter marks, and you can do an inside cut or an outside, so you can make it look like a portrait as well. So as Tomer mentioned as well, as we run this, there is a wrinkle analyzer that will detect that. You can set the sensitivity of it, the height of a wrinkle, but it'll actually keep track of, if you have a wrinkle, it'll pause the printer. It'll give you a couple options. If you want to continue, the wrinkle's really not bad. Is it bad enough you want to stop, or just ignore it and fix the wrinkle, and it just moves on. So it kind of gives you a little peace of mind if you have a little bad media you can get away with.
Yeah, and George, that's a really great point. That is information that can be saved in your media database log as well. So if you have a material that you know is particularly challenging or tends to have a little bit of warp to it, you can go ahead and say, go ahead and ignore it. I know eventually it will be fine, and you don't have to worry about continuing to put those settings in. So if you have multiple shifts or multiple operators, all of that information can be stored right in the database. Now you can see the blue lights. That's the LED cure, as Tomer mentioned. It's a very low temperature, low energy consumption, and allows you to open up a wide variety of different types of materials that you can print because it runs at a very low temperature. And George, what mode is this and what speed are we running at?
This is distant view at approximately 2,227 square feet per hour.
Beautiful.
207 square meters. We're going to go the meters route.
Thank you. So I'm going to move the camera over towards the software side, namely because, as Tomer mentioned, we are utilizing an onboard embedded Fiery XF front-end system. So that's going to give you access to all of the color management, profiling, and ripping tools that we have, again, on the super high-speed side, but embedded right in the software, allowing your operator to be able to make efficient and quick, nimble changes if you need to on the fly right here at the press. You can also enable different third-party cutting options here. You can do all of your step and repeat nesting, all of your layouts. And again, you can have these set up as workflows, allowing you efficiency again between shifts and operators.
So as Tiffany said, you can do this on the fly as you're printing. But I'd also add what Tomer said earlier about how we can nest inside the printer now. We're not dependent upon Fiery to do nestings anymore. Within this software, it's super easy to do. If you have one good size roll, you want to do multi-job nesting, you can just go in, pick out a group of jobs, just say,
And again, you can be doing this on the fly while the press is still running. So your operator can be staging a continual queue of work while the press is actually in production as well.
in different sizes, you can step and repeat.
And it gives you complete access. So you can step, repeat, nest, all of that to make the most efficiency of that material.
And then you have an optimize, it'll actually center it.
We all know the constraints of the media supply chain now. So we want to make sure that you're getting the most use out of all of your materials that you get in-house. Now, speaking of challenging substrates and materials, we had a customer who had a particularly challenging substrate that required better management of the frayed edges. You know, we've all seen it with the scrim banner. Sometimes you get the little wrinkles on the edges. Sometimes you get the little fibers that come up on the sides. This particular customer was trying to run a bamboo type material, a very natural material, and it had a lot of damaged edges inherent to the material. So the team in Israel, the engineers over there, Tomer's team, were able to develop, cross-leveraging some technology that we have on the hybrid side, and developed what we call a media edge guide. So basically, you see here, you can attach to the front and the back a little bit of a deflective that will hold down the edges of those problematic materials, and the carriage will just ride right over it. So it's going to hold down the edges, allowing you again to be able to run potentially damaged or more challenging substrates. So the more often you can say yes to your customers, to their applications or media needs, the better off you are, of course.
So also I'll add in, it actually uses the mesh wings that are built into the printer itself. So you do have the mesh kit already in the printer. It's standard. It's going to be there. So they utilize that. And also, as you can see, I paused the print to do it. So if a wrinkle or a little bad edge does come up, you can pause your print before you think it's going to go bad and just put those on and just restart the print.
And again, we are utilizing the Ricoh Gen 5 print head. It's going to be a 7 picoliter ultra drop. So even at these higher speeds, which would traditionally be an, outdoor distant viewing application, you're still going to have really, really great edge fidelity. And in these light colors, these pastels, it's not going to be grainy. It's going to stay nice and smooth.
Also, go ahead, Tiffany. Sorry.
George, you talked about the mesh kit and the wings briefly. Is there any way that we could maybe cancel this print and talk through what that looks like and why it's important?
Actually, it's going to end in a few short seconds. So I'll let that end and I'll definitely do it. It's super easy. It's literally one button. And let me find my pad.
So this is going to allow our customers the ability to run to an unlined mesh or windscreen, if you will. So it's keeping costs down, it's keeping weights down on that material, and it's very low invasive to the printer. So some competitive equipment, even some of our EFI legacy equipment, you had to take one platen off, that entire 3.2 meter platen, and put on a new one, which means you're managing, the space for that, but then also the downtime. So this, as George mentioned, is going to be one quick click, and the wings will pop up. You load the cloth that will receive the blow-through ink, and then you can start printing right away.
So what we've run into within our travels is customers think of the mesh kit as an added bonus that just happens to be there. They never kind of into mesh, but they got into it because it's there. So
Again,
you can see
media, another offering for your customers.
the slitters are quick and easy. You just lay your mesh kit out just like this. Just imagine that media not being there. Lay it out. And literally one little press of the button, our mesh wings will come up. And that is exactly how simple that process is.
So the wings pop up, and there is a safety warning in the software that will tell the carriage that you are running with the wings up, so that you won't have any sort of crashes or anything like that.
Yep, you will have a minimum height before you can even get that carriage to move.
Now, additionally, we've talked a lot about media management as well as, just being able to run those more challenging substrates. In the software, we also have the media savings wizard. So what that's going to allow you to do is utilize any sort of smaller roles or roles that you've taken some off, but you're not really sure how much is left, if it's going to be enough to run another job. So this is the media savings wizard, is a function in the software that's going to ask you every time you're loading a fresh role, how much material is on that role. And throughout the day and throughout the job, it's going to keep track of how much material has been used, both with live work, but also if you're doing a bidirectional test, a step test, or anything like that. If for whatever reason you run it in reverse, it'll give you that material back. So it keeps track of every single pass. And at the end, at the very back side of the platen, utilizing a very small amount of material, it's going to put a tag on that material so that when you take it off and you put it back on the shelf, you know what the material is, you know how much media is left on that roll. You can leave little notes for the operators who take it off the shelf, maybe had to use the megs or, had to run a little bit slower for whatever reason. So the next person taking it off the shelf can make the best use of all of the material on your floor, but also give, as I mentioned, some notes for the operators who are going to be running it next.
And also when you go to load a job, the software will know when you load a job that's too much, it'll say, you don't have enough. So it'll kind of stop you from even attempting it.
Yep.
So I actually printed it right on the platen right here, Tiff. So like Tiffany said, we're not using much media. So when Tiff comes up with the camera, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but there's a line right here. From that point back is where we're figuring how much media we have left. We do that because when you cut your media off in the front, we want you to have enough to load the material and start from there. So we kind of give you the opportunity to make sure you're going to use that material, that specific amount.
And George, what if I have, now that we know I have enough material, but I'm splitting it between two jobs, what if our jobs or our roles have different outer diameters? Is there any way to manage that? I see we only have a single bar on here, but what would be some other options?
So as Thomas said, we do have some options. We do have the dual roll unwinders and winders. Within that system, it does not care what the outer diameter roll is on either shaft. So you can start with 150 feet, you can start with 300 feet. And it just doesn't matter.
And it has a dual drive, right? Correct?
Yes, you're going to have two separate motors, two separate drives. The weight capacity and diameter goes up. So as opposed to this one single bar at about 440, 450 pounds, you're going to get about 880 on each bar in the back and a little bit greater outer diameter.
George, I'm going to go ahead and switch the camera around to the back. Can you talk to us about what we have on the back side of the press?
So on the back side, we have a 13-ounce banner vinyl loaded on a 3-meter shaft. So as you can see, it's a very easy threading process. There's nothing crazy, no rollers to go in and out. It's a very simple one-person process. One person can easily do this. If you have a roll lifter, it makes life even easier, but everything can be done. Also within, we do have safety features built on the back. So we have rip cords. There's also one on the front. Also within this area right here, we do have a safety beam. So if it's in motion and someone crosses this beam with their hand, it stops. So we kind of try to prevent injury as much as we can. And also within these shafts, we do have chocks on either side, so you can inflate from either side.
All right, switching back around to the front, Tomer talked about the availability of white ink and clear ink. George has pre-printed for us, just because I know we're going to be chatting with a customer here in a moment. We have an example here of the spot clear. So as I manipulate this in the light, you can see the variable sheen level, like the leaf there in the orange bottle. Orange juice bottle has a different sheen than the flat matte background as well. And this clear, again, talking about efficiencies, material supply chain issues, and just operators, the clear is actually a protective clear. And it will replace lamination, the post-process of lamination in some instances. Big benefit there, of course, is that inline you're jetting the lamination. So the same time you're printing it, you're laminating it. So it's one operator. It's not an additional SKU. You don't have to wait for the lamination to come in. You don't have to, worry about supply chain. You don't need the whole process of taking it from the printer, loading it to the laminator, which might be a two-person process. So that clear can be jetted inline and is now also a protective. And it can be used as a matte finish as well. And the other examples that I wanted to talk through really quickly, EFI's infamous white ink. So this is a black banner vinyl. Tomer talked a bit about truckside curtain. So this would be an example of that type of material with a single hit of white ink. You can see it's very, very opaque. And we linearize our white separate from our CMYK, so there is no loss in print quality. Some other print vendors out there will use a much larger fixed drop size for the white ink in order to get sufficient opacity. The EFI white ink is so opaque that we're able to still use that very high quality small drop size, so there is no loss in image quality when you're utilizing a white only print like I have here. And then of course we have the ability to print on metallized materials. So this would be an example of a silver Dreamscapes wallpaper. And we printed a white, shape white under the CMYK, allowing the texture and the metallic of the material to show through where we wanted it to. Again, just a single hit of that super opaque EFI white ink. And again, you can choose and build the printer out for the most part as it fits your business needs, and then again, adjust as your business needs change and grow. And one last point, I know we have to cut over to the next bit in the segment. The last point that I wanted to make was that, this is our entry level, but very good high production industrial build. And as you outgrow this, it's a very easy transition into, a 3R, 5R plus, or even the Q series, because again, a lot of the technology that you have at this level was brought in from those other super high speeds. So it's very low impact, not very intimidating, very short learning curve as you move up through the roll-to-roll product portfolio. So any questions on the printer side? Anything pop up, Dan, before we switch over?
Yeah, I don't have any questions right now, but if you do have questions or anything, feel free to add them into either the chat or the Q&A section for that. But we appreciate it. And again, a lot of the stuff, it's interesting every time I go through this with you guys. There's just so many productivity features that are built into this printer. This is a great printer for people getting into that the industrial production level. Right, you may be doing other prints, roll prints or the like, but really when the volumes become sufficient or the customer needs become more, or you want to do more wider range of applications, this is a perfect next step on the printer. I mean, the ability to do white, the ability to have clear, the ability, all those, the cutting and inline cutting and slitting, the dual roll, single roll, how do you manage the printer? How does it handle all the media? All of these features are just phenomenal for a printer of this class, right? So again, a lot of those things, we learned on the super high production side of the roll-to-roll, but this printer here has all the same features. It fits the budgets of most, but really fits the next step of business growth for most of the customers, and that's what we want to talk about a little bit next. So let me see if I can. I'm going to stop syncing for now. And I'm going to take the presenter back. And Joe, you and I want to have a conversation around those topics. So again, thanks. Feel free to ask any questions that you have that come in. Joe, let me get started with you because it really is the reason we wanted to walk through the printer and Tomer wanted talking about the whole portfolio, and then as we drill into here, it's really we do find a lot of customers that get to this stage of their life cycle and say, hey, I need a little bit more out of a roll-to-roll printer. Joe, I have you on. Do you have your camera on? Let's see your face, Joe, if we can, if that's all right.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to turn it on.
We need to see who you are.
There we go.
Yeah, let me see. All right, I think I have to remove from stage. Okay, perfect. Now we're going to get back in and say, thanks, Joe. And Joe, you and I talk a lot because, again, you've helped quite a number of customers, make business decisions around printers. Thousands over your lifetime, really. But specifically in the roll-to-roll space, it's been interesting with the conversations you've had with customers based on their business today, what they're looking for, and how does a 32R come into play for them? And if I start with this, is what kind of work are customers doing that says when you're talking to them, you're like, hey, they may be a 32R may be able to help them with their business needs. What kind of things do you see, or what do you look for in customers when they're talking to you to say, this is a potential solution for?
Well, Dan, to answer your question, the applications are all over the board. There's what this device allows us to do because of the quality, the capability of media handling that it has, the ranges of substrates that it could print on, the adhesion levels of the ink, where in most cases I don't even have to laminate and have the coverage and the protection that I require for the different applications. It allows me to enter into a wide range of customer needs.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do is I first start off with customers by basically just asking them and looking into how they're doing things today, and what types of markets are they involved in? Are they passing up opportunities for additional revenue or additional profitability? That because they can't handle it and they just don't go after it. So we discuss these types of things first. And part of that discussion, I also gather quite a bit of information, like get an idea in terms of the kind of production numbers that they're running, or perhaps if they're even outsourcing part of it or a lot of the roll work themselves, and try to figure out what type of work are they outsourcing, what type of challenges they're facing with that. What volume of it, and are they interested in maybe bringing some of that in-house and keeping those profits for themselves as opposed to passing them on? So these are all the types of questions that I usually go through with the client when I first meet them, and try to determine if there's something we can help with.
Yeah, and that sounds like it's pretty common, right? So I think a lot of our customers are talking about that, is how can I do more work, different types, right? They've got customers coming at them with different things that they weren't doing a couple of years ago, or even last year, or even earlier this year, new application stuff. They're also, as you said, looking to say, how do I bring in work that I was outsourcing there, and say, that's time to bring it in house. It's enough production to do it. Just do I have the capabilities to do it? I think we also sometimes customers are using a lot of smaller machines or the like to get some work done, and I know we've run into a couple like that before, where they may say they may be handling it like how do you see them handling it today, where you say, hey, maybe a 32R is a better option for you overall?
Sure. So, and there's a lot of those out there where they might have started a business with a couple of 65-inch roll devices, services, and I call them the credit card purchase, because they can pick up the phone, call somebody, say, I want to order that machine. Can you deliver it next month? And here's a credit card to pay for it. It's pretty simple process for them to add additional capabilities. Usually what I do is I look to see, again, what applications are running, and then what other opportunities they have that they're turning down because they don't have any additional capabilities that they could add. For example, if they're running multiple 65-inch devices, chances are they may not be running white with it. Is there an opportunity to be able to capture higher revenue work that they're passing up by offering layering capabilities for white? That's one example. Another example, and it's getting quite prominent right now, is if they want to add additional size of output. So there's a lot of devices out there that today aren't allowing you to print even up to a 72-inch width roll, and that's a pretty common size out there today that people are doing. They're also going to 8-foot banner or 10-foot wide materials. So I look for the opportunities that could bring in. I'm not talking about onesie twosies, but if they really have customers out there that need to do this, and there's fewer and fewer people that could handle it, how can they enter into that easily and justifiably so that they could go ahead and gain more revenue and say yes to more applications and bring revenue in that way? So I look at that as a key benefit. There's a lot of applications out there right now that are starting to take off. In the architectural sector, it's really big right now. So wall coverings is a big topic. And a lot of people traditionally were producing some basic wall coverings on a small 65-inch roll device. Most wall coverings are coming in 54 or 60-inch rolls. And then the installers that they're hiring to install are having to butt them together, make sure that the patterns are matching, make sure that the color is consistent. Many of the devices that are out there, because of the heat that's required to cure the inks, does not produce color consistency from one sheet to the next. So that's a big challenge that they have to manage internally from a production perspective. It takes a lot of hours to do that during a complete shift. So I look for those types of opportunities because with this technology, you know, we can actually print wall covering material out to 10 foot wide. So you can eliminate a lot of the, you know, your installation cuts in half as far as cost, which is another profit area that you can provide. And it provides a much better product. You know, we have great color consistency from piece to piece and day to day. So they never have to really worry about trying to maintain those components in place as well. Then we look at other applications such as, you know, where people might be running an 8-foot or a 10-foot wide roll-to-roll device, more of an entry-level device, and they're having the need now to run things like canvas or tent material, and they go into wide weights on the rolls. So now the machine doesn't track it properly. It can't handle that weight and thickness of material. We do a great job here with handling 440-pound roll at 17.5-inch diameter, just with their standard conveyors. And then we have the ability to put in super winders in there, which actually go up to 1,400-pound weights and handling at a much more industrial level. So, you know, you can open up the doors for a lot of people in order for them to have more uniqueness and offer a product that are much higher revenue and margin gaining for their business. So that's what I look for.
Yeah, that's what you and I talked about a lot, is just that next level of profitability or production or application really drives a lot of that. Because if I've got a small fleet, I can do so many things. But now all of a sudden, if I can still do all those narrow work or more narrow, because I've got the built-in slitting, I can even take one roll, I can run multiple rolls, or I can do the wide work, right? And now I've got wall coverings and other applications that come into play, whether it's heavy materials like canvas or very light materials like window clings. That versatility in applications seems to really drive a lot of the demand, and that's what I know I've heard that from many of our customers that are using the product, right? It's that next level. That's what I mean by next level of production, right? The industrial production. I can still do the smaller jobs, but now I've got bigger things that I can do with the same printer, right?
Yeah, like window graphics. People are producing simple window graphics on smaller printers, but the minute that you have to do stuff where you have a backlit display, you need a layer of white. You need to maybe put in 3 layers of color. You know, that stuff's selling for $15+ a square foot out there. So that's a huge revenue opportunity for someone that has the capabilities like a 32R, where they could do the layering and they could do the white and run it on the proper materials with great adhesion. And capability and 3M MCS warranties, so that they could go ahead and capture that. The other thing that I look for, and it's very common, is I may go into a customer and they may have 3 or 4 roll-to-roll printers now, and their business is going pretty good. And maybe 50% of that work, they started with car wraps and fleet vehicle wraps. And now they're at a point, because of the type of customers they were getting, is that now their applications have grown. And now they're producing banners and some window graphics and some other things on that same system. But whenever they run into a problem with trying to do those better, then they really don't have a solution. So then that portion of work they vend out. So they're keeping themselves from growing, right? They already have the infrastructure set up. They have the labor set up. People today do not want to add more labor. Okay, that's key. They can't find good labor, especially working in multiple shifts. So I concentrate on opportunities where what can we do in the same shift with the same labor and capitalize on the efficiency where maybe I could do it in half the time with half the cost to produce by putting in a bigger piece of equipment in order to take over 3, 4, 5 printers that they're currently using today. So this is something that my customers are gaining some great benefit from as we're going through the marketplace and we're dealing with the challenges after COVID that everyone is experiencing out there.
Well, that makes sense. I know you and I talked about a customer that was doing just that. It's like they had a couple of printers, but really doing it all on one, I can get all the work done in, half a shift versus full shift with all the other devices. So there's really the savings, and then that operator can do other things in that other half a shift, right? So that I'm not adding more people, I'm adding more capabilities and capacity to what I can do, doing it all on one printer versus a bank or the like, right? So.
Yeah, nowadays meeting deadlines is critical.
Yeah.
These companies now are starting out. They're saying, hey, I got to promote this thing. I'm running a big project, but I need it tomorrow.
Wow.
And more people are hearing that, and they're going, oh, I don't know if I can get it done tomorrow. And if I do, then I got to stop 4 other jobs that are coming in order for me to get this job out. So this also plays a big card in the whole process as well.
What would you say to somebody that said, well, with multiple machines, I've got redundancy, right? So I've got the ability to, if one machine goes down, then, I can still print on the others. How does that?
Sure. I mean, there's definitely a benefit to that, obviously. And the more work that they're taking in, the more important that becomes. However, the transition is fairly smooth here because keep in mind, with a lot of machines, you also have more labor running it, where you have 2 operators running, say, 5 machines, right? That means that those 5 machines now require a lot more maintenance more often if you want to keep them running consistently and up to speed to meet the demands that are there week to week. So that means that now you have to allocate time to take machines down and do maintenance on them, which means your operators are now taking time to do that. Where if you replace a lot of those devices with one device that's industrial level, requires much less maintenance, and you have no downtime. I mean, these things are made to run 3 shifts a day, 7 days a week if you need to. You can do it all in one shift with much more efficiency. So if they need redundancy, then certainly they could keep one of their existing devices as a redundant device, or 2 of the devices are redundant. And a lot of times we go in and we mix and match where somebody's doing maybe some car wraps. We keep 2 devices to just do the wraps now, and then we take everything off of that, everything else off the other units and put it on this device, and then we run everything across the board. Because our inks here are flexible enough to where you can do fleet vehicle and car wraps as well. And then transition into some of the other factors too. So that's a huge benefit as well, as far as the offerings that you have and how you control this from a transitional standpoint. Once they go on to that, the only problem that I see is that everybody then gravitates to just using big printer. They don't want to use the little printer any longer. So it's an interesting challenge, because then, but they're also finding that their growth is much quicker in terms of getting into higher levels. And, to Tomer's point earlier, it's easy to transition into our bigger, faster machines at that point in time. And basically, it's, again, looking at the analysis and figuring out when the right time is to do that. But in other cases, a lot of people just opt to go ahead and add another 32R. And now they have redundancy with 2 devices producing, and they still don't have the downtime and still being able to manage a lot of volume. So there's a lot of different ways that you could go with here as far as, capabilities is concerned.
Yeah, and then maybe I just want to step in again. I think the redundancy is a continuous question we're being asked. And so there are 2 things I want to, as Joe mentioned, first of all, in a couple of scenarios, customer really, removed 3, 4, 63-inch plotters and kept one as a redundancy as a backup. But most of those customers are coming for the approach that those plotters are usually, I would say, more gentle, or the uptime is not as the 32R, and they usually don't even imagine how industrial or how the uptime is almost 100% of your shift. You do some purging, you cleaning here and there, so the downtime, they don't even imagine that they can really run 7 hours out of 8 hours, taking off cleaning and a coffee break. So I think it's more the mentality and the confidence. And as Joe mentioned, they just do it to keep one plotter as a side, and after 3-4 months, they say, I don't need this plotter anymore. And another point that, regardless the quality and speed, that it's advantage. If you have multiple plotters, usually from different brands, you have to keep different ink stock, different profiling. The media roll never stop at once, so you have to stop this one, number 2, number 3, number 4, and the operator runs, in between the print shop, and you have to all the back logistic work, maintaining those ribs and different, inks and different inventories. It's a lot of
error rate goes way up from an operator perspective when you do that, because now they're busy trying to manage different things. So your skill level for each operator to know multiple printers becomes much higher need. And then they can't control the color inconsistencies that a lot of these printers provide. So they miss that. So when it goes out to install and they're trying to manage that during the install, they're going, hey, we got to go print some of these panels again because we can't get them to correlate and match with the color. So all these types of things keep popping up as you're going through. As Tomer mentioned, when you're working with non-industrial printers, you kind of learn your way around it and you get by, and that's fine. But when you start getting to a certain level of production and demands, that's when everything kind of changes. You have to start taking a look at expanding your horizons there. So
that's perfect. Perfect for both of you guys. And just in a couple minutes left, appreciate everybody's time today too. So just in interest of time, the last thing I asked you, Joe, and I know we've kind of talked around it, but really when you go in and talk to a customer, you spend a lot of time talking about that analysis and the TCO and really looking at existing equipment, what they're trying to do, applications to figure out what, which equipment fits best. And sometimes the answers are, sometimes the answer's not, right? So it depends on how you go about it.
Yeah, sure.
Talk a little bit about that, what you do and what you look for.
Yeah, sure. Well, basically, I think that the discovery session, which is really having a thorough understanding of not only the business aspects and goals and challenges of the client from other aspects of the department of just production, but sales and the financial aspects of it, as well as production, digging into that and figuring out, how they're doing things, the heroics that they play every day, and, the pressure that they're under. Then I take a look at volume. I take a look at production. I take a look at materials that they're using. Are there better materials that they could be using that lower their costs, or maybe ease the inventory issues that are going on today, or print better, or have better adhesion to the different applications? I look at all of those aspects during the discovery process. And I take that information, then I have a very detailed analysis that we have built internally where it allows me to plug all of that information in. And we have a database worth of printer information there that we've collected over the last 11 years. And so it's very accurate and very detailed. And what it allows me to do is then plug in some different solutions and compare them and take a look to see how it's going to impact their current situation. When I do that, and then I'm willing to share that with the customer as far as a second meeting, we kind of look at it together and we interact through that process. And at that point, they have a better snapshot in terms of the opportunities that they have and how compelling or uncompelling it might be from a financial impact as well. So I'm a strong advocate of doing this before we even start looking at demos on equipment or running samples of anything. I mean, I got a sample book that'll show you, it'll blow your mind away in terms of what you can do. But those things are irrelevant if the printer solution doesn't fit into their environment, or if it doesn't bring them enough value to where it's compelling enough to invest, over a 5-year period, getting into a new lease that they can't mitigate. So these are the types of things that I look at in that process, and the process is very There's customers that I have where we went through that process and it took an hour, and they said, "Oh my gosh, let's put it in," and now they're up to 5, 6 printers
Mhm.
2 years later. They didn't even think of ever even going into that off the first phase. So I think it's very beneficial, and that's the approach that I take with everyone that I work with. Is I just look at that first. In some cases, it tells me, you're better suited going with this other manufacturer and using that printer as an interim and try that for the next 2 years. And if you grow to that next level, then we're going to be right for you. In some cases, I say, don't change anything. What you need to do is change the way that you run your workflow with your existing equipment. But it does provide us a lot of that stuff so we can advise them a lot more carefully. So.
Perfect. Good. Well, let me, thanks for your time. We're right at the top of the hour. So I don't see any questions. If there are, please enter them in the chat window or the Q&A session. Other than that, we did record this session for any of your colleagues that missed it, so we'll send out that in there. Appreciate the time of all the speakers. Thank you, Tomer, for this. Joe, obviously, thank you, and George and Tiffany
Pleasure.
from New Hampshire as well. But we'll go ahead and end the session for now. Thanks all. We'll send out information on our next part of the series going forward. Thank you all.
Goodbye.
Bye.